My childhood was very idyllic. It was probably the best time to be a child in Bangalore because there were still trees, there weren't so many super malls, and the roads were still safe. So we would even bike to school and come back biking. There was never any safety issue at the time, and it wasn't actually polluted or crowded for that matter. So I think I'd say my childhood on a rating of 1 to 10 was probably a 15. So it was one thing about my childhood is that I grew up in rural Tamil Nadu for about 3 years. I was with an aunt who took care of me because my mom is a very big career woman herself. And I would say that my relationship with nature is very, very much a long-term one. It's not something that started yesterday or as a fitness mantra. I have no mantras actually. And I would say that the people are obviously a second and very important part of who I am today. But I would say that probably the single most outstanding quality about my childhood that I carry with me even today is the nomadicity. You know, we were living in almost 3 or 4 different towns by the time I was 5. You know, and it was a function of having, you know, a career woman for a mom. It was a function of her starting a small business. You know, it was a function of seeing how much resilience that generation brought in. You know, and they were not like you and me today. You know, today we have a lot of help. We have a lot of resources. You know, it's optional for us to cook at home or not cook at home. Our husbands are way more understanding. Our in-laws are, you know, probably less prolific than say what our mothers had to deal with. Maybe, I'm not sure, not in all cases, but I think I take that element of traveling and meeting people as the biggest part of my childhood that affects me even till today. And I'm very excited always, you know, whether it's a good set, a not so great set. I'm always happy to be on the move and to meet people and to hear their stories and, you know, sort of accumulate some kind of experience pool for myself, because I think if you are receptive, you can avoid at least the most obvious mistakes in whatever it is that, you know, you are sort of doing. So I have 2 or 3 things that are very close to my heart. Obviously, I love running my company in the best way and manner that I can. You know, creating value for my clients and my team. And we are a very small team. We'll never be a, you know, $1 million company. That was never the goal, and it never will be. And the second thing that's sort of very close to my heart is obviously sport. It's a big part of who I am and how I define my identity. And I think new challenges always sort of have to shape themselves. It's not that you start with a 5-year plan and at the end of it you're successful. That seldom happens. And I'd say that new learning experiences really keep me motivated. Even when I started to teach, you know, 3 years ago, it was a brand new experience for me in terms of handling students, you know, here, you know, how they think, how they stay up all night to do their homework. So for me, new learning experiences is what keeps me going. And be it sport or, you know, entrepreneurship or teaching, whatever it may be, you know, it has to be something different, you know, over time. It can't be the same stock experience over and over again. So I think change, I think, really keeps me going, I would say. For sport in specific, though as a child I didn't like, you know, marching and PT and all that. I mean, but those are stock exercises, right? I mean, I loved biking to school, I loved biking back, I loved biking to my whatever classes I was taking after school. So I think it's been an interesting journey for me. And I think today when I sit back and you know, when you actually hear what everybody's saying, which I don't often, I'm deaf in both ears when it comes to praise or criticism. I think that once in a while I do acknowledge that it took an element of both, you know, incredible stupidity and complete oblivion to the odds. You know, as they say, you know, you can't keep calculating the odds to be a sportswoman here. You really have to go with the flow and kind of, you know, be unaware to some extent. And I think it's been a very gradual, gratifying and adventurous journey. You know, I don't see too many negatives. At the same time, I'm not someone who's going to paint a picture of we are the most empowered women on the planet. We are not. You know, I think we have lots of issues to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Man or woman, you still have that. We are amongst the hardest working nations in the world. Yet in terms of quality of life or health, we are not quite there. You know, and I think money at the end of the day is just that, it's money, you know, and I think you have to understand what its place is in your life and keep it there. You cannot let it become this jealous master, you know. So I think sport for me as a journey has been very gratifying, and it's taught me a lot about myself over and over again, not just once or twice or 2 epiphanies and it's out, So I think overall it's really positive. It's very positive, and as long as I can continue to do it sustainably, I see no reason to stop. So probably my biggest high has been in meeting my partner. I think he's a very reasonable person who can sort of encourage me to be who I want to be. And I was asked this, what's that quality in a spouse that might encourage or discourage ambitious women, for example? And I think it's really mostly not getting in the way. I think men have to be very secure to not get in the way. And that is probably the biggest high of my life, getting married to this wonderful person. And other highs, obviously, every time my company, manages to do something for a client that sort of sets them apart in the market, that's always a big high. Obviously, being in the business I am, I don't get to talk about it very loudly, and I don't mind. It's a personal victory. And the other highs are around, watching my parents sort of take a step back and do things that interest them. Like my mom and I are starting to garden together, so we swap notes. I've managed to kill, I think, 5 seasons of plants, and she's on her first season. So it's funny to sort of go through that process. And with my dad, there's obviously all these long walks that we now have the time to take. And I think it's just really small things that define my highs. Like there's nothing spectacular, spectacular. So.